Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934. It is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, the guy get a seat.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Handling a gator like this can be scary, and this is pretty risky too. But do you know what's really dangerous? Dealing with the insurance company after your car wreck. If you've been injured, get a fighter. That's why you need to call me. I'm not afraid to handle them, and I'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve. So if you've been hurt, hire a professional. Just call me. Get it done.
Get Gordon. Get it done.
Call 1-800-653-9968.
Well, here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and it is springtime. We're getting there in March Madness. When it gets to March, that means college basketball, conference tournaments, which begin this week, and of course the NCAA tournament, which begins a week later. And LSU is right on the cusp. They have to play well in the SEC tournament. We'll see where they get seated. And, of course, obviously the rest of the SEC will be trying to do the same. The Pelicans, they are so close but yet so far. They got the Dallas Mavericks earlier in the week. And, obviously, earlier before that, it was the Minnesota Timberwolves. You got to start winning games. But this show right here, we have John Brady, our basketball analyst, the former Final Four coach from LSU, as well as a rugby coach, or general manager, I should say, from Scotland who coaches in France. He'll be next right here on Primetime Sports.
Make no mistake about it, life's more fun with seafood.
Oysters don't swim.
They do in butter.
What'd you get? A little bit of everything to make everyone happy.
Acme Oyster House. Life really is more fun with seafood.
Did you know that GMFS Mortgage is the largest independent mortgage company in Louisiana? Their 250 employees have helped over 79,000 customers make the dream of home ownership come true. They funded over $12.9 billion in loans right here in Southeast Louisiana. If you're ready to buy, build, or renovate a new home, or just need to refinance, call the company born and raised here, GMFS Mortgage.
Handling a gator like this can be scary, and this is pretty risky too. But do you know what's really dangerous? Dealing with the insurance company after your car wreck. If you've been injured, get a fighter. That's why you need to call me. I'm not afraid to handle them, and I'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve. So if you've been hurt, hire a professional. Just call me. Get it done.
Get Gordon. Get it done.
Call 1-800-653-9968.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans.
on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese.
It's okay. I'll take it from here.
Hey, the guy get a seat.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. You know it's that time of year. NCAA basketball, it's March Madness, and that's when LSU gets exciting because sometimes, they're in the tournament, sometimes they're not. Right now, they look to be pretty much a lock into the tournament, especially if they win one of the SEC Conference tournament games this weekend in Nashville. Well, we have one of their former coaches who took LSU to their last Final Four visit back in 2006. You remember that team, Big Baby, Tyrus Thomas, Garrett Temple still playing the NBA, Taz Mitchell, and, of course, Darryl Mitchell. That was a phenomenal team led by an even more phenomenal coach. His name? John Brady. And he is now the voice of the LSU Tigers. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How do you remember those guys? I have a hard time recalling their names.
Well, you should be sending them cards every day because that's why you got that big bank account in retirement. Because, but anyway,
what it is.
but by the way, this team last year we had a good team. You were calling the games with Chris Blair.
Right.
That team in 2006 had some magic. Just like LSU in 1986, they went to the Final Four. They had a little magic. In 1981, it was a dominant team.
Right.
Last year's team, they got to the Sweet 16. That was pretty much where most people thought they might get if they get by Maryland. Yep. This year's team started 8-0 in conference. Everybody was like, oh, my goodness. They lost two of the best players, but they're still playing great basketball. Now they've been on a little bit of a down streak. I think they haven't got back-to-back wins in the last 10 games, and they're kind of creeping backwards into the tournament. What does that mean for their chances going forward?
Well, I think we're in good shape. We're going to go to the NCAA tournament, and I think the league is so condensed now, meaning there's so much balance in the league. I think even though we're not playing as well as we did when we started off 8-0, I think we have a chance, to win the conference tournament because I think it's wide open. It's that unpredictable. Kentucky's been beaten the last 2 or 3 games. Everybody at the top's been beaten. I think college basketball in general has shrunk this year. Some of the blue blood teams, as we talked about earlier, they've gone up in smoke a little bit. So you got teams like Gonzaga's been #1. You got San Diego State. You got some of these teams that you haven't heard of.
Is #3 in the country.
That have a chance to
Right.
win a national championship. So I think college basketball this year is really unpredictable. I think the SEC tournament's unpredictable to a degree.
Right.
And then I also think nationally it's going to be an exciting NCAA tournament.
I think this is the most national wide open it's been. We say that a lot, but it's usually wide open with 8, maybe 10 teams.
Right.
Honestly, there's 16 to 20 that I'm looking at like maybe, just maybe, if they make a run, because there's no dominant team. I know Kansas is pretty good, but Kansas has some deficiencies as well. But more on the local level with LSU. Let's talk about what this team has, because they have good guard play. They have a senior, and that's been there. So what does it take to not only do well in the SEC tournament, but more importantly in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think for LSU, when we played Arkansas the other night, it's the first time this year, we don't have a lot of depth. It's the first time this year that depth showed up that we did not have.
Yeah.
We had 3 or 4 guys have 4 fouls, had a couple of guys foul out. We got in some issues after we went past 6.5 players.
Sure.
We've got some problems. So we've got to stay out of foul trouble. I think this team may be a little tired because we've had a lot of guys log a lot of minutes because of lack of depth.
Right.
And I think those things are playing a factor in us finishing games. And also on the other end of that, we haven't defended as well as I think we should have. You go to Arkansas and score 90 points.
Right.
You would think you would win the game.
You go to Vanderbilt and score 94, you would think you win the game.
But we lose those 2 games because we don't defend as well as we need to in order to put back-to-back wins together. And I think that's the thing Coach Wade's concerned about now is the inconsistency of our team and the inability to win back-to-back games. Because if you advance in the SEC tournament or even in the NCAA tournament, you've got to be consistent in your play and play well-executed games back-to-back in order to advance.
So I know you're vested in the program only because you do call the games. You're on the team flights and all that. But you do call it like it is. And this team has some talent. I know you got the great freshman from Alabama, obviously, Watney. Right. But can they make a run? I mean, even if it's like 2 games, because I don't think anybody expects them to make it to the Elite 8 or anything, but can they win 2?
I think depending on the draw.
Sure.
I think a lot of times in the NCAA tournament, depending on where we finish after the SEC tournament, our seeding becomes a factor in the NCAA because our team is not dominant. I think one of the factors is going to be who do we play and where we play them.
Yep.
And I think if we do win the first game, the next matchup will be critical for us to advance again.
So as far as John Brady's concerned, is there more pressure and stress when you're actually coaching in the Final Four or in the NCAA tournament or just calling the games, chilling out?
Oh, really? I like my position. It's much more easier for me to sit there and call it and not be responsible for it. And, I enjoy what I'm doing. I had my run at coaching for 41 years. I did all that.
Darn well, too.
Where I'm doing now and having fun with Chris Blair calling the games.
Well, speaking of, I'm going to get back to basketball, but we talked about this the other night. You're having a blast in retirement. I mean, it wears well on you. I mean, you moved down to New Orleans. You've always kind of lived in, smaller areas, never metropolitan. Yeah. What's the last 3 years been like for you?
Oh, it's been great. Stress-free living. Stress-free living with no anxiety. I mean, when you coach for a long time, you carry stress with you. You carry a lot of anxiety with you. And you feel like when you don't win games, or you don't do what you're supposed to, don't recruit the right guy, don't sign the right player, you feel like you're letting people down. I don't have any of that anymore. Somebody asked me the other day, says, John, how's your life? I said, my life is great. If it's not, I screwed it up.
Right.
So it's be my problem. But I enjoy it here. It's great.
There's something to be said for not having to rely on your mood the next day with 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And really, as an agent, I had the same feeling because I spent 4 years recruiting. And then an 18-year-old finally tells me no, or a 19 or 20-year-old, I'm like, oh, my God, my life's over. Yeah. It's pretty stress-free right now, just having fun. So I got to imagine coaching's the exact same way.
Oh, it's great. And people tell me I've changed. I hadn't really changed. But in the nature of the job of coaching, the competitiveness of it, and in my competitive nature, those two things together just always drove me all the time. And I almost approached it as being mad and angry all the time. I got to do this.
You looked at the times.
Yeah, but now I don't have any of that. So I just kind of relax, have fun with it, and I want LSU to win. Don't get me wrong, and it hurts me when they don't win. Sure. But I don't carry it home with me like I used to.
That leads me to something I wasn't planning on talking about. But when you see Will Wade, and he's a young coach, and you took over LSU fairly young, and after having great success at Samford, you see that stress on him because you're a different guy. I mean, let's be honest. You're always a great guy, but when you're in season, it was tough on you mentally. And now I see that a little bit. Will, when off stage, for instance, he's great. Will, but it's only his 3rd year at LSU, and I can already feel the pressure and tension in his life right now.
Well, yeah, but now they're getting very well compensated for that pressure and tension.
That's true.
I got paid more than I ever thought I'd make because I started as a high school coach. But now they're getting paid for that. But I understand. But Will handles it pretty well.
Yeah,
I give him credit for that. He's able to bounce back, and he's young. He's 38, 39 years old. And so, I think the younger you are, the better you handle those type of situations. But he's really smart. One thing I've always said about him is he's very, very smart.
I agree.
So I never doubt what he's doing. And I also told him I never volunteer anything to tell him. If he asks me, I will tell him something and tell him the truth from the way I see it and my viewpoint.
Right.
And he takes it like that. But I don't ever offer anything. It's his team, it's his time, and I wish him well, and I'm just there to help him do the best he can.
Speaking of his team, his time, let's get back to the team. Skylar Mays, I watched that game. I was listening. You talked about Arkansas last week. Yeah. They were down. First thing I heard, turn the radio down like 23, almost at the half, 21. Yeah. And I was like, oh, my goodness. But what I was impressed with, I watched the entire second half. Started a little slow. It was stayed around there. Then they made a run, and they could have given up. I mean, listen, they're short on players right now.
Right.
They're not very deep.
Right.
And they made that run and fought to single digits. And the leader, Skylar Mays, showed me a lot. I mean, Skylar's had up and down season, but, man, when it's crunch time, that guy comes alive. And I think during the tournament he could be one of those factors that you have to have a great backcourt and an experienced one. He might fit the bill.
I totally agree. And he's got to play well most of the time for us to beat quality teams.
Right.
Last night, the second half, or the other day, the second half, he almost brought us back by himself. We got it to 7. We were down 23 at one time, got it to 7, and had a chance to get it smaller than that, and weren't able to do it. But certainly the fight LSU showed at the end of that game was really a positive thing in a negative game overall, that we gave up 99 on the road at Arkansas when we scored 90. So I think defensively, if our team will think defensively going into the SEC tournament,
right.
I think we have offense written across our forehead. We always think about offense. We're averaging 82 points a game. If we just hold people to 78, we can win a bunch of games.
Well, give me 81.
Yeah,
who cares?
We can win 2 or 3 out there.
Hey, before I let you go, obviously this is the year I said it was wide open. Never before in the history of college basketball have a #1 team been beaten in more consecutive weeks than this year. It seemed like every year it was when Louisville or Gonzaga, whoever got there, they got knocked off.
Right.
When you, off the top of your head, just without even thinking about it, when you think about the 4 best teams in the country right now from what you've seen, who would they be?
San Diego State.
You love them.
Love it.
But ever since you told me to keep going, they haven't been winning as much as the experts say.
Ever
since you told me that.
Hey, I like Florida State.
They look good last week. Yeah.
And I like Kansas.
Do you?
Yeah. And my 4th team, I'm going to throw Gonzaga in there. They've always let me down.
They've let me down every year. I picked them as my sleeper winner, and they've let me down every year.
But I do like Kansas. I like the inside game they have. They have good enough guards. I like Bill Self, regardless of what's swirling around that program.
Who cares about
I like
the
what
swirl?
the way he coaches, how he handles his team. And I like Florida State. They're as athletic as anybody in the country. And San Diego State, when people see them on national TV, you're going to be impressed with how talented they are.
You're going to be impressed with Dayton, too. That's a team that no one's talked about, and now they're all of a sudden they're 3 in the country with Anthony Grant, who he was an assistant when you were coaching him. He was with Billy Donovan, right?
Yeah, and then he was at Alabama, didn't do well. Now he goes to Dayton and finds his niche. He's got one of the best big men in the country, too.
He's phenomenal, by the way. Should be a top 5 pick. His name, John Brady. By the way, you should have a whole closet full of different colors. If I've already given you this color, I don't know, because he's my basketball analyst, so he's been here more than anybody. But here's another task performance. You always turn down my restaurant gift certificates because you like to go to those 5-star restaurants. But I appreciate you once again. Enjoy your run. Hopefully it'll be all the way till April.
I hope so.
But if
Go
not,
Tigers,
that means you just got more dinners back here in New Orleans with me.
That's right.
All right, John Brady right there. Hey, by the way, John, do you know anything about this sport right here?
No. But
it's called rugby.
I know. I've got to get out there and see a game.
Oh, you will?
I watched some of it the other night on TV.
On the television set? Yeah, they hit hard, and they don't wear pads like those wimps that play football. But here's the thing. Once the season's over, you're getting the VIP. But here, catch that ball, because right next, we've got, hey, listen, this is a unique thing that fell in my lap. I'm looking forward to this. Neil McIlroy, he's from Scotland. He coaches the Nola Gold Partner Club in France, Clermont. And they have a great reputation and a great history. And I'm looking forward to the partnership that the Gold have with them. But more importantly for you, for the next several minutes, he's going to be right here talking about rugby, because I'm going to learn right now, because I'm still learning after a year and a half. I can't wait. Stay tuned on Primetime Sports. Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Did you know that GMFS Mortgage is the largest independent mortgage company in Louisiana? Their 250 employees have helped over 79,000 customers make the dream of home ownership come true. They funded over $12.9 billion in loans right here in Southeast Louisiana. If you're ready to buy, build, or renovate a new home, or just need to refinance, call the company born and raised here, GMFS Mortgage.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my, oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll.
a gator like this can be scary, and this is pretty risky too. But do you know what's really dangerous? Dealing with the insurance company after your car wreck. If you've been injured, get a fighter. That's why you need to call me. I'm not afraid to handle them, and I'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve. So if you've been hurt, hire a professional. Just call me. Get it done.
Get Gordon. Get it done.
Call 1-800-653-9968.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, I told you we have something unique. We've had some of the NOLA Gold players. Obviously, we're trying to make that the third major league sport because it is. There's obviously the Saints. They've been around for over 50 years. The Pelicans, which combined with the Hornets, they've been around for almost 2 decades. The NOLA Gold are in their 3rd season right now, and they have a new partner, and a very, very excited one at that. A program over in France. Obviously, rugby's kind of new to America. They've been playing for a while, but it's been around the world for many, many years. The 2nd largest sport, obviously, in the world, and the fastest growing in America. But Clermont, which is a top 14 team in France, it's one of the best leagues in the world. And we have right now their manager, or the general manager, like Ryan Fitzgerald is to the NOLA Gold, and his name is Neil McIlroy from Scotland. 22 years in France.
22 years, yeah.
22. How you doing, buddy?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You've been in New Orleans a week now, so give me your observations of the city. Obviously, we like to pretend like we're kind of like France because part of our heritage is obviously French.
Of course, yeah.
What's it been like so far?
It's been very intense. We got in on Tuesday night and we've never stopped. We've had a busy program organised by our friends at NOLA Gold. We've seen some of the town and some of the lovely people, but it's been full on since yesterday morning.
So explain to people that, like here, I'm always trying to teach rugby, and I'm a novice trying to teach, so it's kind of funny. But you've seen American football. What would you tell somebody that you just met the difference between rugby and the sport that was derived from rugby, American football?
I would say the continuity. You know, American football is very intense. It's short distances. It's big guys hitting big guys. We still have big guys hitting big guys, but there's a lot more fluidity to the game. You know, the game doesn't stop and start as much. So yeah, you need both explosive power as well as a good aerobic capacity.
One of the big things in football is obviously safety now. For years and years, the harder you hit them using your helmet and your head, the better football you were supposedly playing. And that's how we were taught growing up. Obviously now they know better. There's a lot of brain injuries and the helmets are getting more sophisticated, and they took the hitting with the head out of the rules. Rugby, they don't seem to have as many injuries. Of course there's injuries. You're playing without pads, but the head injuries are not as frequent as in football, at least the way they used to be. Why would that be?
I think you'd be surprised. It's a big thing just now in our game. Obviously following on from the NFL and the controversy in the last 2, 3, 4 years.
Sure.
Rugby is looking at concussion very seriously. To the extent that they're on about changing the rules and the tackle technique. We've got various protocols imposed on us just now for concussion.
Right.
We've got independent match doctors that are there just to observe concussions or potential concussions.
Right.
So we're treating it very seriously.
Well, on the lighter side, let's get back to like the partnership with the NOLA Gold. I'm curious myself because I'm kind of an outsider on this whole situation. How did this even come about? And what was the origins of it and the progression of it?
Yeah, well, rugby's still a game about the people. And they've got a good man in Tim Falcon, who is the owner-president at NOLA Gold. Now, he got in touch with us 2 or 3 years ago when they were developing the Major League Rugby project.
Right.
And he said, look, you guys might want to get involved with us. We're looking for some sort of, well, let's say backer, financially to a certain degree, but more a partner, somebody that can work with us and help develop our sport.
I'm curious, though, from the outside looking in, obviously year 3, it's much improved from year 1. You're over there in France. Like I said, you've been there for 22 years after you left Scotland, and you've been coach in Clermont for 17 years.
Yeah.
So when you're peeking in and you're looking at the progression from year 1 to year 2 and now year 3, what are you seeing?
Progression, as you say. You know, it's I think they're trying to follow a similar model to Major League Soccer. And that's obviously very successful today.
Yes, it is.
So you have to progress. I think there's other franchises coming in. There's money coming in. There's more people understanding the game and want to go to watch it. But honestly, we're scared because if the US takes rugby seriously, look out everybody else.
Yeah, but that's funny because the rest of the world is like the same way with basketball because America's being competed with, but we're still like the stepchild of rugby. But I'm going to tell you this. I've watched it in the last 14, 15 months. when I first joined with the NOLA Gold, they had, obviously New York and Toronto, the biggest cities in their countries there. Then I saw this past year, obviously this season, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, Boston, one of the biggest markets in, obviously, America, Atlanta, certainly the biggest market in the South. And then you have Los Angeles, the second biggest market in the country, and Dallas coming in next season to go along with all those other teams. That, to me alone, said this thing is exploding rapidly.
It is. You've got teams in all the major cities in the U.S. now. You've got backers coming in. You've got some leading European players, All Blacks and French internationals, finishing their career in the U.S. So that means that there's something of interest to everybody there.
It's crazy. And by the way, let's have some fun because New Orleanians love the Saints. As much as we trying to get the gold right there with them, the Saints are their passion. You had a special opportunity earlier in the week where you got to go to see, obviously, the Saints facility, and I actually got to join you, but I've been around the Saints facility a couple hundred times at least, and I didn't get to see some of the spaces that you were in, and it was kind of a privilege for me. So you were Jeff Ireland, the general manager, and some of the trainers and stuff. Tell me about that experience and for you and your guys that you were with.
Yeah, thanks to the guys at NOLA Gold. They got us access there, and I know Jeff Ireland through a mutual friend in Australia. So it's great to be welcomed into such a facility and such a top-level NFL team was a fantastic experience. The facilities there are second to none. It's a stuff of dreams. We've got a good training center in France, but you can't compare it to what they have.
What do you have? I'm curious. What is it? Because I've heard, because Tim's been there, and I know his son went out there, and some others. What is your training facility like out there in France?
It's similar to the Saints,
right?
But much more compact.
Right.
We've got a similar way of organizing. So there's a fluidity to how we organize our the players' movements when they come in the morning, similar to the Saints. We still have the same coffee machines in the same rooms in the same offices, but everything's a lot smaller, which is possibly because our squad's smaller and we don't maybe have the same financial means. But we've got a good training center, but it's very American in its design as well.
Well, it's pretty neat to me that the Major League Rugby team is right in the same neighborhood with the NBA team and the NFL team. That is rare. I don't think it happens anywhere else in the country. But hey, we have a shirt. You gave me a beautiful shirt from your team that was Under Armour, and I love Under Armour, but that has a little bit of unnatural qualities in it. I mean, like a little bit of polyester. I'm not saying this is better, but this is better. This is called Task Performance, a New Orleans company. Once you put that on, you're going to be calling me France. You're going to be with that long number with the 8 more digits and say, Scott, can I get a few more of these? I just want to thank you for coming on, Neil.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you and best of luck, and I look forward to the partnership with you and the NOLA Gold, obviously with your team in Clermont, and my man Benoit, and I got to give it up to Paul. They got me speaking French again, so I enjoyed that. We're going to take you out to dinner, too, and we also have we're going to give you free tickets to the NOLA Gold game because your appearance here. So that is Neil McIlroy. Look it up. Look up rugby. Hey, and start supporting the NOLA Gold. The next game will be on the 28th. They play Toronto Arrows on that game, and then we got a big game on the 18th. They play the New York team, and, of course, a couple more in May, and then the playoffs. So get on out there to the Shrine on Airline, a.k.a. now known as the Goldmine on Airline. And each week, we're going to be talking more about the Saints, the Pelicans, LSU, Tulane, UNO, all that, as well as the NOLA Gold. See you next week right here on Primetime Sports. Well, it's funny that you say that.